Okay, Shavua Tov, Good Chodesh. So, Be'ezras Hashem, we are continuing with our weekly shirim on Adir BaMarom from the Ramchal and his biur Hanifla, the miraculous biur on the Ijer Rabbah. And we're continuing from where we left off, where after describing the fundamental nature of the relationship between above and below, and the deficiency of below needs to awaken the descent of fullness from above so that we can fully participate within the process of unification that takes place in the blind spot of the middle that is devoid of the original unity of the end and the eventual unity of the original unity of the beginning and the eventual unity of the end. It's specifically in the blind spots of the middle, and that emtsa, where it's our responsibility to confront, deal with, draw down, and reveal the inherent wholeness within deficiency through our human experience, which is the secret of drawing down the irreducible essence of wholeness into the external shape of things, to reveal the inherent meaning and wholeness of all things. And we spoke about how it's specifically done through the Shem Shakai, etc., as we've spoken about in all of the Shirim. After the Ramchal describes this necessity of us awakening from below in order to draw down the fullness from above, to create the unification between Zer Anpin and Nukva, to be Magala, the Yichud of Zun, to be Mashlim, all things. So the Ramchal makes a very clear fundamental distinction for us in terms of how to grapple with this newfound responsibility, because what the Ramchal is really setting up more than any tzaddik, because this was the light that the Ramchal came to the world to be Magala, which was the necessity of human effort in the process of allowing the divine unity to unfold. Yes, divine unity can unfold without human effort whatsoever, but that divine unity would be whole in all matters of wholeness, but it would be deficient of the process of human experience and grappling with the uncovering of that unity. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in his impossible unity, revealed the paradox of all paradoxes, which is that in order for Hashem's unity to be fully revealed on the level of Chachma, there has to be a descent down into the world of Bina. And this descent down into the world of Bina gives birth to this space of Bechira, of Zer Anpin and Nukva, where there appears to be deficiency and emptiness that needs to be fulfilled in order so that it can take shape in a meaningful way. It seems to be that this descent means that it's up to us, that this responsibility now rests upon us, Ein Adavar Tali Elabi, that the unity and the inherent flow of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's infinite light through all things and in all things is ultimately dependent on human effort. And while that certainly must remain true in our minds, nevertheless, we also understand fundamentally that that's absolutely not true whatsoever, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in control of all things, and that the descent away from the original unity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu into the apparent absence of the middle was not because HaKadosh Baruch Hu was absent from the middle, but it was because Hashem wanted us to reveal him within the middle itself. And this concealment is part and parcel of Hashem's revelation. It's just the secret of the Yichud B'Shlita. It's the ability for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be unified in our experience in this world, which can only come about by way of human consciousness, which by definition is built upon the blind spots of emptiness and deficiency and the possibility towards meaninglessness. And from that place, from within the Yichud of Shlita, from within the Bechira that operates in the middle space, that is disconnected theoretically from the beginning and the end, which are the Yichud of the Rosh and the Sof, so we might come to think that it's our responsibility. But of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does that in order so that he could reveal his wholeness in an even more intense way. And that Hashem is also present in the middle. And that even though it appears that Hashem is distant from us and all of the kochos of the Sitra Achra, God forbid, seem to take on some self authenticity, some ability of themselves to function in their own way, devoid of the unifying light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is obviously an impossibility, that middle space where the Ramchal gives so much permission for us to talk about, that space that appears to be devoid of Hashem's infinite presence, we might come to think that it's actually absent from Hashem's unity, and that if it were not for our efforts and if it were not for the actions in our hands, then we wouldn't have the ability of drawing down that unity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light. And the Ramchal says, while that may have been true after Adam HaRishon for a slight moment, which was the secret of Moishech Ba'arlaso, that he covered over that Nekuda of Yud, which is the Ateres Abris, which is the Yichud of Zer Anpin and Malchus, the unification between the Shin and the shade, which the shade and the Yud, which creates Shakai, which is the secret of the Pnimius and Chitzonius Beyichud. Ramchal is explaining that even though Adam HaRishon was Moishech Ba'arlaso and seems to have concealed this inherent unification between the two stages, nevertheless, after Adam HaRishon and then with Noah HaTzadik, we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a bris with the Metzias, a keshet, which is the yichud of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, which are the three prongs of the shin of Shakai, that unification will always be there, and that there will always be an irreducible remainder of connectivity, in spite of the fact that there might be a concealment on the external level, so that we might feel that the matter is dependent upon us. We might feel that the unification of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the presencing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is dependent upon human effort. Our consciousness, our conscious awareness of that unity is dependent on human effort, but the presence of consciousness or the absence of consciousness, attention or inattention, does not have any inherent impact on the actual presence of the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu at every moment, on that yud that is hidden within the Shakai, and the secret of the Kel Shakai, and the secret of the yichud between the world of Atzilus and the worlds of Bri, Yitzir, and Asiya, and the secret between the yichud b'Metzias, which is before the degradation, and the yichud b'Shlita, which is after the degradation. All of them are unified in the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's what the Keshet is. The bris of the Keshet is that it will never leave, and even when it appears to be gone, it's only concealed. It's no longer seen as absent, which is the theory of tzimtzum kipshuto chas v'shalom, that implies that there's some element of absence or distance from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that is actually devoid of infinite light. And it's the transition from that perspective of absence into a perspective of concealment, which reveals to me that everything is always already present wherever it is that I find myself. It's just a question of the gradations of revelation, which very often means just undoing the concealments that block us. And that's what the Ramchal points out in the pasuk in Tehillim in Parak Ayin Dalet pasuk Tes, where he says, "Oiseiseinu lo ra'inu." We didn't see our signs. Talking about the time of exile, talking about the time of Golus, where there appears to be a deep divide and a fissure and a split between the external casings of reality, which are the Taryag Evarin, which are the 613 elements of the body itself, and the external nature of existence. It seems to be devoid of an inherent connection between that and the Taryag mitzvos, which are the Sheroshim Haruchniim, which give Shlemos, which are the Tefillin, the Tzitzis, and the Osos that come down to be Magala and to reveal the inherent meaningfulness that is hidden within the external casings of what appears to be open to the threat of meaninglessness. And so the Ramchal comes along and he says, don't ever think that those connective points, that the yud that connects to the shade and the above that connects to below is ever absent, actually. It's always present. It doesn't say, oh, so slow, Ra'inu. It doesn't say our signs were not there. It doesn't say we didn't see our signs. Oh, so seinu. It is our signs. We have possession over these signs. They're simply not visible. Had the pasuk, had David HaMelech said, oh, so slow, Ra'inu, we don't see the signs, the implication would be that as a result of our mindlessness, our inability to forge that inherent connection between above and below, between the meaninglessness and the meaningful, so then theoretically those signs would be gone, and it would be up to us to try and earn them, buy them through the capitalistic spiritual perspective to bring them back, because we once had them and now we lost them, and now we're in a state of scarcity and deficiency. Adir, it's oisoiseinu. We own them still. They're still our osos. They're still there. It's not ever a din of them being gone. It's simply a question of them being concealed. And that is the process of the ha'elem hadavar, the yichud, which is concealed, the unity between above and below, which is the place of the suspended and the almost excluded middle, where it's our responsibility to be able to look down deep into the emptiness apparently around us, to see the yichud hashlita, to uncover the hashgacha pratis in each and every moment of our individual lives, which by definition is operating from within a space of concealment, because if there's a notion of individual life with individual desire and individual interest and individual perspective and preference, etc., that implies that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is coming down to me in my own most limitation. That is specifically where I get to uncover the relationship that Hashem has with me in my life, in the process of revealing Toiv Hanira v'Hanigla Lamatam Yasar Tvachim, of attuning the goodness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light to the particular features of my own subjective experience. That yichud, that Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Olam Vod, cannot emerge unless through the apparent concealment of the middle, because if it was always revealed, then all it would be is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's yichud b'metzias, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's inherent unity and desire to express itself. But because there's a he'elem, and because there's a concealment and a middle where it appears to be the giloy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's shlita, which is Hashem's relationship with creation, rather than the yichud b'metzias, which is the containment of creation within the infinite light, the yichud ilah. So it's specifically in this middle place of the concealment of that os that we come to uncover the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a new way, revealing more and more how we have the ability to draw our ego and our effort into the perpetual process of reaching a place where we realize that all strength of the ego and all strength of effort comes from a place beyond us, which is the secret of Ayin. Zakt the Heilige Ramchal, in describing this pasuk that we just discussed, which is the reality that, okay, so the unity is always there. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light is always there. The Yud is always makusher to the Shin Dalid. The Taryag mitzvahs are always makusher to the Taryag Evarim, but nevertheless, it's concealed. And that's what we're going to look at now, Ezra Hashem. So now that we've spoken about the reality of there being concealment, so let's see what this concealment actually means. When are these signs hidden? What does it mean to be in exile? What does it mean to be in the stuck place? Once we've come to terms with the fact that it simply feels like stuckness, in spite of the fact that it's not devoid. Ve'ata efarish lecha kol zeh hetiv. Zakta Ramchal and Daf Yudches in the Machon HaRamchal Rav Shirki edition. Ata afarish lecha kol zeh hetiv. And now we're going to explain this very clearly to you. V'hu inyan, and it's the aspect of what we saw in the pasuk in Tehillim in Parak Ayin Dalid pasuk Tes oisoisenu lo ra'inu ein oid navi, that our signs have not been seen and we no longer have prophecy. Meaning they're our signs, they're there, they're just not seen. They're not absent, they're simply concealed, and there's no longer a state of prophetic expression. Velo itenu yodea adma, and there's nobody with us who knows how long this is going to go on for, how long this state of concealment is going to go on for. And what Ramchal is going to see in these words, velo itenu yodea adma, and we do not know how long this is going to go on for, the adma, that we're going to see the Ramchal picks up about 4 perushim, Ezra Hashem, it's either 4 or 5, which could theoretically correspond to the Shem Havaya. It's 4 and 5. The 4th and the 5th are connected together, just like the Yud and the Kutza Shayud are connected together. So we're going to see the Ramchal give an expression of Shem Havaya in accordance with, of an answer in accordance with Shem Havaya, in accordance with the understanding of this pasuk. But before the Ramchal breaks into this secret of understanding a pasuk in many different ways, the Ramchal is going to give us a hint to the hermeneutical principles and the framework of drush that the Ramchal is so mechuber to. As we've said, that the soid of soid is the os yud, and the drush of sod and the remez of sod is the os hey, and the os vav is the drush of sod, and the pshat of sod is going to be the os hey. That the Ramchal corresponds to the drush of sod. He corresponds to the osvav or the os hey, depending on how you relate to the name and the orientation that we just aligned. But either way, the Ramchal and the Gra are always interchangeable because of how close they were in their avodah and their mahalach in understanding Pnimius HaTorah. In spite of the great differences, nevertheless, there was a chibur between the two of them. The Baal Shem Tov and the Rashash, or the Yud and the Hey, and the Hey and the Vav in the middle are going to be the Ramchal and the Gra, as the Gra himself said that he would have walked had the Ramchal still been alive. So the Ramchal introduces why he's able to now give us 4 different interpretations on a single pasuk. There are numerous interpretations and understandings that we can give to this lashon of the pasuk. And in truth, the Torah expresses itself in many-fold forms of interpretation in many paths. And there are interpretations and understandings of the verse in accordance with the simple, explicit meaning. And there are other conceptions and understandings of the pasuk which are very far from the pshat orientation. Ad sheyiru zarim lefi hanira b'pshat, to the degree that it's going to appear to be something that stands in stark opposition and is strange in relationship to the pshat understanding. Why? Because they seemingly are drawing the intentionality of the words to an opposite place, fundamentally different and distant from the simple understanding. To the degree that through the hermeneutical openness of how we interpret the Torah with the infinite drachim in which it expresses itself, that which can be seen as something that is praiseworthy can be explained in a negative way, and that which is described in a negative way can be explained l'shevach, because yeshin yan she'itapech hakol, and there's a secret of grabbing the core of the Torah and revealing that all of the Torah is interchangeable, and that a person is always seeking to uncover that singular most point of the Torah to themselves. V'chol ha'perushim yihu emes, and the chiddush ha'amiti of Talmud Torah of elu v'leilu divrei Elokim chayim, and the secret really of the pardes of the tzaddikim and the pardes HaTorah is that all of the different drachim are going to be true in accordance to the relative positioning of those levels. So the pshat is true, and the sod, in spite of the fact that it looks distant from the pshat, it's also going to be true, and both are true at the same time, and the pasuk can open itself into various ways. Why? How is it possible that a text offers itself up in such a way? The secret is v'zenimshach machmas tziruf haTorah. The true power of this emerges from the secret of the inherent permutable shifts that take place within the osios of the Torah, as the Ramban writes in the introduction to his Parish on the Torah, that in truth, the Torah, as it's written in front of us right now, is an iteration of the Torah with relationship to our grasp of the Torah as it reveals itself to us right now. And that Torah will never be changed, but there are infinite iterations of the Tzirufei Osios of the Torah. Why? Because the Torah is the Shorish of all Metzias, as the Ramchal hinted to a few weeks ago, where we saw that the Torah, unlike other Giluyim, which is something that was internal expressing itself external, the Torah is not something internal expressing itself external and undergoing shifts, but rather the Torah is an inversion. It's a folding outwards of the inner interiority of the Metzius, and it's folding outwards. That very same internal light expresses itself outwards to the degree that the infinite is revealed through the Torah itself. That the Torah is not Pnimius that's Niskala as Chitzonius, but it's Pnimius that turns itself around so that the Pnimius itself is being revealed in spite of the fact that we're still operating in place of Chitzonius. This is why the Iker Zach of all things is to be mechuber oneself to the mind of the Torah, to the mind of the tzaddikim who draw down the Torah to us, the Osios HaTorah, and to the Teva, so we're going to see of the Torah as we find in a sefer like this. The reason for the infinite interpretable space of the Torah itself is because it emerges from the Tziruf HaTorah, the secret of the Reish Lamed Aleph Sha'arim, the 231 groupings of letters that create the original space through which HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals himself. Shana Marbo, the pasuk says, Az Ra'av Yisapra v'chulei, as the pasuk in Eov says, that there's 4 gradational levels in terms of understanding something, and a person can look at something once, and then twice, and then 3 times, and then 4 times, until it opens up in front of a person to realize that all of the various ways of looking are nevertheless not separate sources that create a differentiation in the meaningfulness of the image, but rather they are all singularly connected to the singular perspective of vision, but the vision can be divided into all of the various frameworks and forms through which we see the Torah, so that the Torah is always Meir Einenu. It's a singular Torah of Moshe Emes v'Sarasei Emes, but everything the Talmud Vasik is going to say is also contained within the mind of Rabbi Akiva, and the Avodah of Rabbi Akiva, which is all the Chidushei Torah that appear to be this expression, an infinite expression of disunity from the heart of a singular point of unity, which is the Os Aleph of the Torah, is going to be in the secret of Rabbi Akiva saying ultimately to Moshe Rabbeinu that it's Halach L'Moshe Misinai, that in truth all of the pratim and all of the riboy expressions of the Torah and all of its various forms are ultimately going to be revealed to be part and parcel of the singular das of Moshe, which is the secret of Moshe Emes v'Sarasei Emes. Zaktar Ramchal ki akol niver b'Torah. Again, the reason that the Torah is infinitely expressive in its various forms is because in truth the Torah itself comes from an infinite place and it represents something infinite, and everything, the Torah is that infinite place that HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed so that creation can emerge from the Torah itself. The Oreseha mitztarfim b'tzirufim rabim lohitzi dvarim hatzrichim livaled. And in truth, the source of all of existence, as the Balatanya Sulsigan Aleinu and all of the tzaddikim have made clear to us, especially the Baal Shem Tov, through the teachings of the Baal Tanya, is that the entirety of existence is nothing but the permutations of various letters, and in accordance with the necessity of what reality needs at that point, in line with the divine providence of how Hashem wants to run the world from the perspective of the Yichud Ilah and the Yichud Tata and the Hanagas HaYichud and the Hanagas HaMishpat, the subconscious movement of history that is perpetually evolving, and the conscious awareness of history which is perpetually up and down. All of these things are fundamentally rooted in the perpetual re-expressibility of the osios of the Torah, of the Aleph base. The Tziruf Zeh, says the Ramchal, in this particular understanding that we have in front of us, and the Torah as it exists in front of us right now, and that tziruf, that original tziruf, as the Ramban describes, is the source of all of the perpetual tzirufim that we're going to be able to draw down from the Torah. And because in life there's one thing, and that one thing has many, many purposes. Each and every person is not dealing with a different thing in Metzias. They're dealing with the same thing in Metzias. It's just that that thing has a different tachlis for that individual person, and in accordance with the subjective orientation of that person's kalim, of the lave, the mayach, and the guf, that is going to be how a person is grasping the tachlis. But in truth, it's a singular thing. The Torah expresses itself through achdus, achas dibra leikim v'shtayim zu shamati. The shinui and all of the pirud and all of the differentiation and all of the separation is all mitzidenu. It's all from our perspective of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But in truth, the emergence of that infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is also our perspective, is singularly unified and expresses itself in many ways. V'hinei al kol panim, af al pikein, nevertheless, yesh sheyatzu kulam It's important to keep in mind that all of these riboy and infinite, innumerable ways of interpretation emerge from a singular place. And therefore, all of the eventual lights, all of the possibilities, and all of the expressions of the unfolding expressions of light, and every interpretation, every grasp, every movement of the self emergent from the encounter with the words themselves is going to be considered a new tziruf, a new ha'ara. And that ha'ara is true because it illuminated that person. Because everything is going to come about by way of a tolda that's coming from a singular place. And this is what's going to be seen in understanding a singular pasuk in a singular way, that all of them are ultimately coming to reveal the same thing. So all of the multiplicity is ultimately coming back to reveal the singular unity that can express itself by way of multiplicity as well, which is the secret of the yichud between Moshe and Rabbi Akiva of Torah Shebechsav and Torah Shebal Peh through the Yud Gimel Midos Torah Nidreshes Behen, through the secret of Ahava, which is Gematria Echad, which is Gematria Yud Gimel, that Torah of Rabbi Yishmael, the Bryce of Rabbi Yishmael, which is Mamtik the Dinim of Klipas Yisrael, the Klipas Yishmael at the end of days, because it's specifically through Torah Shebal Peh which the bris with Yitzchak Avinu is born, because the first iteration of Torah Shebal Peh was by the Akedah. So we see that the recognition of all of the riboy pratim and understandings of a particular pasuk can all come back to a singular place, which is the secret of this yichud that we're going to explain. I'm sorry, I'm being far more verbose in terms of the meandering. So we'll get into the lashon itself. We'll start with the first parish of the Ramchal on this pasuk, Velo Usenu Yodea Adma. So what's the first way of understanding this pasuk of lo yodea, of that we don't know how long this concealment is going to go on for. V'lo itenu yodea adma. What does adma mean? Until what? Ad masai. Until when? It's a question of the elongation and the endlessness of exile, or the seemingly endless nature of exile, which is Lebav Rebbe and his this is his week. Lebav Rebbe's yahrzeit already is in the process of beginning from Rosh Chodesh of Tammuz, as the tzaddikim say, until Gimel Tammuz. That lo yotenu yodea adma, the first parish of how long is it going to be, is admasai. How long is this going to go on for? The elongation, the unending nature of the exile. How long will it go this way? All of the nechamos that the psukim talk about the comfort that's going to emerge at the end of exile, those writings in the Nevi'im and hidden in the ksuvim that offer us insight into the redemption from exile were all hinted to in the aspect of Hashem planting the cure prior to the disease, which was Galus itself, because we were entering into a place of Galus. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to give us a refuah that would help us process in a time of Galus. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu hid within the Torah itself the future redemption that would arrive for the first two destructions of the Beis HaMikdash. Ki kvar kol ha'orus ha'hem kvar hichinu al matzavim came, because the lights that were prepared and necessary for the redemption of those two stages of exile were already there, and therefore we could always assume that they would emerge. They were hidden within exile itself. So no matter how negative the exile seemed to be, there was also this hidden awareness of the fact that the redemption is hidden at bay, and that the cure is hidden within the disease. All of the things that were ready to be revealed from the state of Geula, from those two initial stages of exile, were already hidden within them. So they were Yodea Adma. They had a notion of when it would be or how it would be. Vigiluyam lanuhu, and the revelations were to us. Kikach niten lahem giloy gadol lahayir lanu. All of the Geulim, all of the lights of redemption that came from the first exile and the second exile are emergent into existence itself. She'ilule kein niglu lamala lo higiyo hayadil mehem alinu. Because had we not known about them, had they not been revealed above, there was no possibility of human beings being able to understand it. Meaning to say, the Ramchal is saying in the first two expressions of Gullus, there was always going to be a hidden awareness, the fact that there is a nechama already revealed to us because it was revealed above, therefore we had the ability to grasp it. So there was a certain comfort inherent in those forms of exile. And the knowledge of the eventual destruction of the negativity and the emergence of Geula is a profoundly strong tool in terms of weakening the strength of negativity that strengthens itself in a time of exile. And it heals and cures so many of the difficulties and the symptoms, and it enables us to tolerate exile, meaning the awareness that exile will end, hinted to in the Ramazim that reveal that it is inherently present within the process of exile itself, it gives a person the ability to cope and to grapple with the heaviness of exile. It's difficult now, but I know that there will come a time where it's going to be revealed to have been okay all along. Ach keneged zeh nistam yom haga'ula. But in terms of our experience, which David HaMelech is describing, of Oisesenu Ra'inu, so even here, in accordance with us, this is concealed. Yom HaGeula is concealed. The actual Yom of Geula is concealed to say that it's not even hinted. We don't even have that inherent awareness of its perpetual presence to enable us to grapple and suffer with exile itself. Besod Halohu Kamus Imadi. It's hidden with me, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Again, it doesn't mean it's not present. Avad, its presence. It's just hidden with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and not revealed in the sense of the refuah that's makdim the makkah. We don't have that cure and that salve that precedes the difficulty itself. Because when it comes to the first two stages of exile, so the Torah Hakadosha, the Nevi'im, the Ksuvim, Chazal, the Tzaddikim were aware and they were able to reveal the hints of their end. We knew that they would end. There was a limitation to them. There was an amount. There was a timestamp on them. And the knowledge of the eventual ending of exile in accordance with the expiration date of concealment gives the individual the ability to tolerate concealment far more. And that was the light of redemption that was sown within the first two stages of exile. When it was revealed to them from above to below, there was a perpetual strength that emerged from within that mindset of the awareness of hidden redemption within exile that gave them the strength to perform the rectifications necessary. But we have no idea. It's so big. It's so big. Nothing is revealed for no reason. Kol sheken yom ha'geula. So too the day of revelation, the day of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's redemption. Ubegalus hazeh achron. And in this last stage of exile, says the Ramchal, where it's not revealed to us like it was in the previous stages of exile, where that promised emergence of redemption, in spite of the fact that it wasn't present yet, burned within the heart of each and every Yid so that they were aware of the expiration date and there was a limitation on the concealment and there wasn't this perpetuality or the sense of perpetuality to it. Because in this exile, we need to rectify the full rectification. Therefore, the light that is going to emerge is going to be so profound. Shiagam hayom sasum. We are not even able to grasp the concealment of that day, because the light of that day is going to be so great that had it been hinted to in the pasuk or in the psukim like the other galusim, then it would have been so powerful that we wouldn't have had to go through the galus itself. And because the redemption is going to be so profound in this stage, so we don't even have the awareness of the end date of it, which gives a sense of perpetuality to it and unendingness, which is the horrific kind of fear that a person carries themselves with. But that's the secret of the tzaddikim who scream out ad masai. Ad masai, until when? We don't know when, but until when? There has to be a when. There has to be an expiration date. This is the abysmal depths of the fourth exile, which is so preparatory for a stage that is so beyond our graspability that even a hint to it in a revealed way as the refuah that is makdim to the makkah, to the cure that precedes the sickness, is not available to us. That's the fourth kingdom that has no understanding, no grasp of its end. Kizem miklal hatikunim shebegalus. This is one of the ikar tikunim, one of the ikar ways of rectifying exile, is not knowing when and demanding ad masai, ad masai, ad masai, ad masai, ad masai, ad masai. That in and of itself, that ad masai, is the tikkun itself in the first two stages of galus. So we had a grasp of the question of ad masai. It became something that was dependent on a calendaric date. But the secret of our generation is that there is no calendaric date, because it can be the secret of be'ita achishan, and therefore by asking ourselves ad masai, we can draw about the gula shlim b'tekefum yad mamish to the degree of right here, right now. Ad masai, a person has to be able to demand ad masai, and as the Ramchal is describing over here, that scream of ad masai is in and of itself the rectification necessary in this third stage of galus, in accordance with the tremendous light that's going to be revealed. Vahatam noda la'adon hayachid amahanig asakol, and only Hakadosh Baruch Hu knows the reason for all of this. V'zehu shahaya mitoinin David HaMelech, and this is what David HaMelech was screaming out about our exile. V'lo yitenu yodea ad ma, meaning dahainu ad masai. We don't know when it's going to end. So that's the first way of understanding the limitation and the concealment that applies to the chibor of the yud and the shin dalid in terms of what we've been discussing as that distinction or that apparent distinction between above and below. So now we're going to go into the second reason, Be'ezras Hashem. Not the second reason, but the second biur, or the second perish on Ad Masai. There's another way of understanding this pasuk of lo yodenu adma. And now let's go and see it in another way. But again, all of these four ways are going to reveal a singular way. Our knowledge in our generation in this third stage of Galus is not actually considered knowledge. So yes, we might have a grasp of knowledge, but in the end of the day, our way of knowing, our way of experiencing Das is still in a state of lo itenu yodea adma, that we don't have a full grasp of Das itself. Why? Because the matter is not as clarified in front of our eyes and as revealed in front of us as it was for the previous generations who had the ability to have Das. So we see that connectivity and knowledge and chibur is dependent upon the clarity and the immediate nature in which the idea is expressed to an individual is going to be the level of a person's knowledge. And because that degrades over time, so too does the reality of a person's knowledge. Ki Rashbi zecher tzadik v'kadosh lebracha hayakol hadvarim tamid burim lefanav. By Rabbi Shimon, everything was revealed in front of his eyes. In the times of the Zohar Kadosh, pasach picha v'yir devaracha ki ish haroa be'enei hadavar v'nitzayir b'levavo. Like an individual kavyachol who was seeing the matters within their own eyes v'nitzayir b'levavo, and there were the tziurim, the formations which are not formations, the shapes which are not shapes, the measurements which are not measurements, were revealed within the heart of Rabbi Shimon, which is the secret of Bina, which is the tziur, that in Sayar Kelikenu, which is our ability to grasp HaKadosh Baruch Hu by way of concealment, in spite of the fact that all that exists is revelation. Rashbi's mind was not split with a darkening pattern. It was not contained in a confusing state. There was no irbuvya. Ach koidem lo, sha'achrei achurban, ne'emar v'lo yitenu yedei adma. But afterwards, and even before there were states like this, what we say is lo itanu yodea adma. We don't have yediyah. Va'adma. And what does adma mean here? What does it mean we don't have a yediyah of adma? Hukamo belima. It's not an actual. There's no mohus to it. There's no essence in the knowledge that we have. We can speak about it, but we can't really grasp what it is. Perish ein mi sheyodea ma hadavar sheyiya. Nobody knows what is going to be. Nobody knows what is going to be the next step. Hainu klum. Nobody knows anything to the degree that our yediyah is limited. It's not a question of quantitative knowledge. It's a qualitative shift to the degree in which we apprehend knowledge, to the point that in relationship to the previous generation's way of knowing, it is as if we know absolutely nothing. V'tira she'eno omer v'lo banu. But don't think that this is true for the entire generation, because we know that the ikar amuna that we have to have is that there's a tzaddik like Moshe Rabbeinu in each and every generation. Each and every generation has the tzaddikim ha'amitim. Each and every generation has yichidei hadoros. Each and every generation has the sridei hapleta, the rishimu, the koitel ma'aravi of the body of Klal Yisrael that remains connected to that place of prior to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, as the tzaddikim of Lubavitch said. And so it doesn't say velo banu. Lo banu yodea adma. It doesn't say there is nobody who knows amongst us. Ella velo itanu. It's not with us, meaning to say, yes, we don't know, but nevertheless we believe in the tzaddikim b'chol dor v'dor, sheshatlam b'chol dor v'dor, and the yechidei hadoros and the tzaddikim and the talmidim ha'amitim of the tzaddikim, that they still have a graspability of that knowing. B'zeh ki be'emes afal pikein, nevertheless, even though we don't know, lo chasru legamre eze chachamim gedolim Yisrael. There's always going to be somebody, a nekudas haroishim, an irreducible chuta sa'ara. There's going to be the etzem haluz of Knesset Yisrael, which is the nishmas tzaddikim, the lamed vav tzaddikim, the lamed vav b'chutz la'aretz, and the lamed vav in Eretz Yisrael, which are always going to be the tzaddikim who actually do know and actually do have an ability to have a das like the Rishonim. Acha inyan hu kamoi menoyach vad Avram. But the difference and the matter of what we're discussing is like the transition of the generations from Noach to Avram. Who are those tzaddikim? Ki hine hayu anashim tzaddikim kamoi shem ve'ever beis dinam shem an Aver existed in the time of between Noach and Avram, except Achlo Hayu Misarvim Im Shar Hador. Nevertheless, the chibur of the tzaddikim with that generation was not mu'urav, it was not unified. So Avada, they're tzaddikim, but they're not unified as Avram Avinu was and further. In our generation, Baruch Hashem, we have tzaddikim and we have the misavrim im hador. That's the secret of our generation, that we have tzaddikim like Avram Avinu, even though we're undeserving like the generations prior to Avram Avinu. And as the Chassam Sofer describes the difference between Chanuch and Avram, so these tzaddikim, even though they had a real das, nevertheless, it didn't bring about a real positive impact on Klal Yisrael because there was no real revealed integration with that wisdom and experience. Because they stood on their own in their das aloikim, because they couldn't engage with the generation because of the pollution of it or whatever the reason was, there was no expression of it outwards. So too, when prophecy ended from Klal Yisrael, Al kol panim nisharu harbe chachamim. There's chachamim, there's tzaddikim who do know. So the lo itenu yodea adma means that we don't have a real grasp of knowledge. We don't know what das is. We only know the external shapes of things, but we don't have a graspability of the inner expression of it. And that's the klal of this stage of Galus, which is rooted in the first answer as well, which is that we don't know when it's going to end. Had we known when it's going to end, and if we know exactly when it's going to come, so then we'd be able to connect more deeply to our das, because the dvarim would be more barur. But as the Ramchal says in the first reason, that the ikar way of being mamshich, the gemar hazman of Galus we experience, which doesn't have an expiration date, is by crying out Ad Masai, as the Lubavitch Rebbe teaches us. Okay. In the times of the Tanoim, Yediyah was real Yediyah. There was real Yediyah. It wasn't a lo itenu yodea adma. We had real Yediyah. It wasn't a question of this knowledge without any significance. It wasn't just kind of speaking like a parrot or mimicking or pretending. Because in the times of the Tanoim, there was a tremendous wisdom that was unleashed upon Klal Yisrael. All of them knew the secrets of Torah. All of them knew the secret refuah, the secret of Panimius HaTorah, the secret expression of the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the secrets of Torah. All of them had a graspability of it. All of them understood. Achlo misyashvim b'liboisam hadvarim hetiv. But the matters were not revealed, clarified in a real way in their hearts as a result of the deficiency of prophecy. Each and every one of the tzaddikim understood what they were grasping. But nevertheless, the words were like a closed book. They weren't revealed outwards to the nation. So those tzaddikim knew, but the hispashtus of Pnimius HaTorah was not Niskala, which is the light of Mashiach, which is the light of all rightness, which is the light of the Yichud Ilah and the Yichud Tata, and the comforting light of the Torah itself, which gives comfort and hope and perseverance and hisgabrus and strengthening and yegia and simcha to a yid. That wasn't revealed for all to see. Because even if a person has understood a little bit of it, but they haven't stood upon the essential nakuda of pnimi of emes within the teaching, the things remain closed to the individual, because it has been concealed. These matters are concealed from the minds of the human being, and it's only through the encounter with the mind and the depth of the mind that we enable ourselves to truly come into a place of yediyah. Hine kain tira gam acher alis rashbi lebeis menuchaso. It appears that this is the case even after Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai ascended to his place of rest in Meron. Shahayu chachamim megamgemim b'lashonim v'loy oimrim b'pemolei. Even after Rashbi drew down the Torah of Pnimius HaTorah into the minds of Klal Yisrael through the Hisgalus of the Sefer HaZohar, nevertheless, that wasn't enough to create the real revolution necessary of allowing the lights of Yodeya Adma, of knowing the secret of crying out Admasai, which is the depth of Pnimius HaTorah. At that stage, it was still not fully revealed. V'im kol zeh, nevertheless, there were still chachamim. Hine chachamim gedolim reshumim hayu yoidei Kabbalah al medchoy nasa. There were nevertheless individuals throughout each and every generation who were able to draw down this elixir of life, this Torah of Mashiach from generation to generation, in spite of the fact that it wasn't niskala for all to see, which is why, as the Ramchal is saying in this second Perush, it doesn't say lo banu adma yodea adma, but lo itanu yodea adma, because there's always somebody in Klal Yisrael who has a grasp of it, but it's just us who don't have a grasp of it. But they weren't like Rashbi. They didn't create a yeshiva. They didn't open up a space. They didn't make a book like the Zohar Kadosh, which opened up the worlds of above and below. They didn't create the revolution. It didn't go far enough, and that's why it's ki lo itanu yedea anma ki im oimdim la'atzmam v'lo mitchabrim la'acherim. They lived with these secrets, but they didn't connect to others with these secrets. They didn't share it. They didn't give of the man to Klal Yisrael. Nimsa koila oilam chasu yediyazos. The entire world was lacking the true nature of das, which is why it says lo itenu yodea adma lachein omer lo itenu yodea adma ki mashi yeshitanu. But what we do have, we know that they're tzaddikim. Ein yesh yodea adma. Nobody knows it fully. Ki ein nikra sheyodin klum. It's as if they don't know anything if you're not expressing it outwards. Be'emes kol ze nimshach meha'aretz ha'aretz besitum. And the reason for this is because the lights are always being revealed, but they're being revealed in a concealed way in our generations. Oy bepsicha, and sometimes they're going to be revealed. Ki rak b'mei Rashbi zecher lebracha. It's only in the times of Rashbi. Achra Yud Gimel Shana Asher Haya b'Ma'ara. It was only after that 13 years of exile that Rashbi was in the cave. Niftuchu Sharia Chochma Lav Lahayir Chol Yisrael Ad Keitz Hayamin. That it was specifically Rashbi who went through those Yisurin, who was given permission to express these Torah in a secret of Yediyah, which is begin the secret of Geula that comes from the book of the Zohar itself, which is what this book Adir BaMarom is all about. And we're going to see from this second reason of lo yodea itanu adma, which is the second interpretation, which is that Pnimiyas HaTorah and the Razin of Yichud and the Razin of Unity were not revealed in a real way yet. So that's the second interpretation of the pasuk, and that's the concealment of the chibur between above and below apparently being concealed. The third perush is as follows: V'hinei oid inyan acher nichlal poi bezeh adma. And there's a third way of understanding. This is going to correspond to the third expression of Hakadosh Baruch Hu's name. Ki v'hu ki hayediya ha'amitis hu hayediya besoid demus adam. The ikar yediya in all of Pnimiyas HaTorah is the idea of Adam. It's the secret of Adam Kadmon, is the secret of the Yashar, is the secret of the Mitkala, the balancing act between the right, the left, and the center. The secret of the chibur between the awareness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's infinite unity, as well as the recognition of my necessity to act and engage in a realm of Bechira. It's the secret of Chachma, Bina, and Das. It's the secret of Chesed, Gvur, and Tiferes. It's the secret of the Yichud of the beginning, the middle, and the end. That's the secret of Adam. That's the Shem Havaya of Ma, of the Olam HaTikun, of Olam HaAtzilus, which is Yud Vav Daled Hey Aleph. Vav, Aleph, Vav, and Hey Aleph, which is the gematria of 45, which is the secret of Ma. So, who inyan echad nichlal poi adma. What does adma mean? Ki hayediya ha'amitis hi hayediya beside demus adam. A person has to understand how Hashem reveals Himself through our own human experience, and the secret of me besari echaze eloikim. Hainu ki haloi koil habruim v'hamishpatim soidim nichnal b'demus adam. Now, we already know that all of Mitzias, the worlds and the worlds upon the worlds, and the Torah itself is all in accordance with the demus ha'adam, in accordance to that tripartite breakdown of right, left, and center, or Yamin, Small, and Emsar, Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, or Tzimtzum, Kav, and Yichud, or Ein Sof, Tzimtzum, and Kav, Zek, Far, Nispar, Become Makomos. And we've expressed this elsewhere in numerous places. Umisha Masik Zadavar, and somebody who has truly grasped the secret of Olam, of Adam Kadmon, of the Yamin, the Small, and the Ends of the Chibur between the beginning, the middle, and the end, of the secret of Ibor, Yenicha, and Moichin, all of these elements, Hachna, Havdal, and Amtaka. This is a person who understands the secret of wisdom, which is the secret of Ma, which is the secret of Adam, which is specifically the limitation of human graspability that becomes the vessel to reveal that which is ungraspable. Because at the end, Pnimiyas HaChochma is always coming to teach us the secret of being a Ben Adam, of Adam Ubehema Toshias Hashem, and the Yichud that we make as a Ben Adam, and the secret of Zer Anpin to be Mechuber back up Lamala. But the secret is always going to be the Shem Ma. That's where we're going to be Mamshech Lemoichin down into Zah. Beside Zois HaTorah's Adam, that Zois HaTorah, Adam Kiyamas Ba'il, that the entire Tachlis of the Torah is Adam itself, is Ma, is the secret of Olam HaTikun, is the secret of the balancing between expression and receptivity, and not the overflow of Chesed, and not the over limitation of Gvura, rather the proper balancing act of right, middle, and center, properly oriented towards the secret of Hashba'ah. V'kiven shelo yesh misha masik zeh, and because there's nobody, or there was nobody who grasped this, ne'emar v'lo yitenu yedei adma. Nobody knows the secret of Ma. Nobody knows the secret of Tikkun. Nobody knows the secret of Tikkun, shu shem Ma, which is the shame of Ma, which corresponds to Adam. So we see going in retracting order. So the third answer, the Ramchal gives as to what this exile is revealed as, in spite of the fact that we know that the inner interiority is a state of redemption at all times, because the signs are there, they're just concealed. So the third interpretation is that we are lacking the true understanding of the balancing act that Pnimius HaTorah is coming to be Niskala to us, which is the unity between Chesed, Gvura, and Teferes, between Chachma, Bina, and Das, to be Megala, the Pnimius of Keser, which is the secret of Ani v'Ayin b'Vasachas, the unification of opposites, to reveal a paradoxical unity of them as a third option that rests above them in its source. That is revealed to us through the second reason, which is the secret of knowing Pnimius HaTorah, which is Lo Itanu Yodea Adma, that Pnimius HaTorah was not properly revealed, and therefore we don't have a full grasp of the Tachlis of Pnimius HaTorah. And that all comes back to ultimately the first reason the Ramchal gives, which is Ad Masai, that we don't have a revealed Kates at this point, and therefore there's no expiration date in our minds, and therefore we're stuck languishing very often in the anxiety of the perpetuality of all things, instead of screaming out Ad Masai to create that stoppage point, which enables us to dive deeply into Pnimius HaTorah. And then let's go to the fourth answer. Be'ezras Hashem. I'm sorry, I know it's a little bit of a longer shir today. V'oid soid nichlal b'pirish zeh. And there's another sod that's contained within this interpretation of the pasuk v'loi itenu yadea adma, the nature of this concealment. Amuk mikol asher pirashti l'cha ad ata. It is deeper than deep. It is deep upon deep, depth upon depth from everything that I've explained to you. So let's assume that this fourth reason we're going through the Shem Havaya in a process of from below to above, from Hey, which is Malchus, to Vav, which is Zer Anpin, to Hey, which is Bina, to Yud, which is Chachma, and then to the tippy top of Yud, which is going to be the secret of Kesser. So the first reason that we gave is Ad Masai. There's no revealed end date. There's no expiration date, which is going to correspond to the lower Hey of the Shem Havaya, which is going to be the Malchus of it. Then the second one is that we don't have a Hamshacha, we don't have a Chibur, we don't have a Chibur Hagadol like the Zohar, we don't have the unification of Rebbe and Talmud. Yes, there are Rebbeim that exist, but they're not Mechuber. That's corresponding to the Osvav, which is the secret of Hashba and Limud Torah. And so that's the interpretation that corresponds to the second to last letter of the Shem Havaya. So we have Hey and Vav. Then the third reason we gave is going to be the secret of Adam, and that comes from the place of Bina, because Bina is Mashpiyat Zer Anpin, and it's the Ima that's Moilid the Ben, which is Magala Zain on the secret of Adam, which is the Shem Ma, which comes after the Shem Sag. So the first Hey is going to correspond to the third Perush that the Ramchal gives. And finally, over here, we come to the secret of V'oid Seid Nichlal, and this is going to be the secret of Atzilus, the secret of Chachma, V'lo Yiteni Yodea Adma, Omuk Mikol Shar Perashti L'cha Adata, because the world of Atzilus, which is the Osiyud, is fundamentally different from the Shem of Hey, Vav, and Hey, which are the worlds of separation. Hine Kosov Pasuk says, Ma Shemoy Uma Shem Benoi Ki Teda. What is his name and what is the name of his child? Obviously, a pasuk that is fundamentally connected to the light of Mashiach. Ma Shmoy Uma Shem Beno, as the Zohar Kadosh describes as it's Mashiach, and it's Mashiach ben David, it's the David and Ben David, it's David and Yosef, it's Moshe who returns back. That Moshe is the secret of Ma Shemoy Vanachnu Ma. And what this means is that we already discussed how all of the limitation, all of the concealment, all of the gvuros and the tzimtzumim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows to shine his light through in Metzius, all of this is separated between the essential light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the kelim, which are the receptive valves for the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, this distinction that the Ramchal is hinting to between Atzmos and Kelim is a fundamental sugya which rests at the fabric of our beginning to understand the basic fundamentals of Pnimius HaTorah, which is that the differentiation that emerges from the spheres themselves are not identifiable or equatable with the infinite light of the essential nature of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light, God forbid, but rather the essential nature of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light expresses itself through the Kelim, which enables there to be a differentiated expression of an indivisible unity. And the reason we're able to look at spheros and speak about the nature of spheros, which are kalim, is that it's like the revelation of a singular ray of light through 10 different colors of glass, so that it's going to appear to be a different color in spite of the fact that the singular ray of light remains perpetually unified. And the Ramchal says, I've already explained this very clearly, and again, this is what we're always coming back to explain very clearly in our lives. V'hakelim heim hasviros, and kalim, the receptive valves, the containment, that which exists below below, that apparent separation, which is no longer contained within the unified light, but is emergent from within that unified light in the impossible secret of faith. These kalim, these receptive valves, these containment vessels, these moments of tzimtzum and din and gvura, and the endpoints of a person's experience are the spheros themselves, and in accordance with what is taking place below in the perpetual reorientation and the reshaping and the replumbing of all of the profound connections and infinite connections that are taking place in all the various permutations within the Torah and the unifications upon unifications and the relationships between worlds upon worlds, in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mashpia, the shefa, from the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu down through the Seder HaShtalshelis, through the Shemos HaHavayos HaMenukados, which is the secret of the Bittul B'Tachlis, which comes about through the understanding that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Sheira only in a place that's Mevutal to him, all the way down to Hamshachas HaMoichin. All of that is in a perpetual state of shifting above in the world of Atzilus, and in accordance with our understanding and extrapolating and understanding from that ontological reality of the Olam Atzilus, as the Ramchal is always working with this way of understanding Kabbalah, we can also understand it through the way that we encounter HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our lives, in our Hanhaga. The perpetual shifting and the changes is a result of the perpetual shifting of the orientation of the spheros in how they refract the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the secret of Atzmus v'Kelim. In spite of the perpetual change associated with the spheros and the Kelim themselves, the light of Atzmus Kavyachal, and again, over here, obviously, we're not talking about Atzmus Yisparach, which we know is never ever spoken about, and all that we can ever begin to speak about, as the Ramchal explains, fundamentally clear in this Sefer, as we're going to see, is the expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's infinite light, which is always already at least a step below the essential graspability of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's essence, Kavyachol, and the secret of Kedushas L'malam Kedushasechem. But nevertheless, through the radical secret of faith, HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows the unspeakable, ungraspable, infinite light of his essence, Kavyachol, to be mislabesh itself within our graspability of Atzmus, which is the secret of Chut Ein Sof, that place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu re-enters the ray of infinite light into the Chalal of the Tzimtzum HaMaspashet Bekulam. After the Tzimtzum, after the Chalal HaPanui, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu seemingly removed the infinite light that preceded the creation of existence, and in order so that existence can begin to take shape and to re-illuminate the irreducible trace of that light which always remained in spite of its apparent disappearance, HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowed for there to be a kav or ein sof to be yored back down into the world. Now, the radical secret of the kav is the impossible possibility of infinite light expressing itself in a finite way, because the kav or ein sof, which is the secret of the infinite hope that we have for ourselves, as the Ramchal describes in Drush HaKivoy, which is a language of kav, which is being mamshich the kav down further, it is impossible unity of limitation and unlimitation at once. It is the bilti gvul begvul. It is the drawing down of infinite light into a secret of containment. And how does this take place? So there's something that surrounds the kli of the kav kavyachol, which is just the externalization of the kli kavyachol, is referred to as the chut or ein sof. It's the casing in which that light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu descended back down. So that's where we're going to see in the Ramchal language of the kav and the chut, which is going to be that process of oiris and kalim of the kav that's coming back down. This is always prior to Adam Kanmon Kavyachol, so everything we're speaking about is just B'derech Mashal in the way that it all exists, in the impossible way of the way that it exists above, far beyond our graspability, as the Leshem Shul V'Cholama says, and it's our job to extrapolate and abstract to the point where it becomes meaningful for our experience down here. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is perpetually expressing his essence Kavyachol down into every aspect of existence at every moment. And this is the secret of the Kav or Ein Sof that was yored back down into the vacant space where the apparent absence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light was present. Shaboy Ein Shinoi Klal. When it comes to the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Kav and the singular ray of that infinite light, there's no change. It's changeless. It's unshifting in its presence. It abides in its infinite nature, and it is always present there. The changes are only with regards to the Kalim themselves. And this infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that is emergent through the Kav is only the Chayas, it's the vitality of the spheros that gives shape to those vessels, but devoid of that inner light of the infinite vitality that is ascending down into the vessels at every moment, the vessels would be null and void, and they would be negated in all manners of negation because they don't exist other than the vitality of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'zeh nikra gamkin, is this also what the Tikkun Zohar says in the second Hakdama, Shekyoy the Ilana, it is the dew, it is the sap that gives life to the tree. The tree is the Ilana, the Chaya is the spheros themselves, is the Seder Shtalshelis, is all of the partsufim through which HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals himself, but the Iker Zach is to be mechuber every moment of our lives to the Shikya de Ilana, to the innermost light that sustains all things, to the Or Ein Sof, to the Bittul B'tachlis that comes about from the Chachma Da'ak, which is that point in our lives where we're able to fully recognize our Tachlis HaBittul and Bittul HaMetzios, the Gamre, to reveal that everything that exists is Yichud Ilah, that all that exists is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that the Yud, the K, the Vav, the K, and the Shem HaAtzmi is the grand total of history and the grand total of existence and the grand total of personalities throughout the unfolding process of history, and that somehow, some way, it's going to be revealed that everything is fundamentally contained without any deviation whatsoever within and saturated with the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the Hakara of the Shikya de Ilana, the Sodo Shem Ma, Shem Adam, and this is the secret of the Shem Havaya de Ma that's Niskala in the Olam HaAtzilus, which is the secret of this innermost light that reveals the unity of all separation. V'hamekablim yichelim lekabel. And those who are now going to stand ready to receive this light are going to be able to receive it, o min hasviros levad, hainu min hakelim, o min ha'atzmus shabehem. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu has set this up, a person has two ways of grasping the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is revealing himself. Either I'm going to get stuck on the Kalim and the Spheros and feel that it's the, God forbid, the separation and the differentiation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows his light to be refracted from that I'm grasping from, forgetting about the Atzmus, forgetting about the Shirish of Ein Sof that rests within it, which is oriented towards the Shem Ma, which is the secret of HaKadosh Baruch Hu being Megala himself in Zer Anpin, which is the Giloy of Zan Atika Artalia, because Keser is Niskala specifically from within Zer Anpin itself, or I can connect to the depth of the Atzmus within them, and obviously the distinction and the differentiation is going to be fundamental in terms of how I function. If I'm grasping the innermost expression of what's perpetually emerging in my life, or I'm only getting stuck on the sibos, or I'm only getting stuck on the external casings of them. Amnam be'emes b'Yisrael k'shehem muchanim karoi. But in truth, it's even more than this, says the Ramchal. And here the Ramchal is hinting to the deepest secret in the world of what takes place, la'asalavu. It's not simply enough that we're able to attach ourselves to the ore of Atzmus Kavyachol that's Niskala within the Kalim and not to be stuck on the Kalim. Amnan be'emes b'Yisrael, when it comes to Klai Yisrael, Kesheim Muchanim Kiroyu, when they're truly prepared, as Nimshach B'soichem Espashtus Mizeh Achut B'toich Nishmasam. In truth, the essential light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be expressed within their soul in the secret of Nishmat Shakai Tavinim, in the secret of Chelek Eloikam Yimal Mamish, Ki Gam L'Mala Yishkam Mine Pnimius Zeh Lifnim Mizeh, because in truth, when we speak about Pnimius and the gradations of Pnimius and HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealing his inner light within the external casings, so there's going to be gradations upon gradations. And this chut, this expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's infinite light back into the space of concealment after the tzimtzum is the most interior of all forms of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's expression down here. V'chein b'Yisrael, and so too with Klal Yisrael. L'pa'amim, there are various times, yimshach b'seich nishmasam me'bechinas ha'kelim levad, and there's going to be times in Klal Yisrael where we're seemingly only drawing down from the kelim themselves. U'lepa'amim gam me'bechinas ha'chut atzmo, and sometimes there's going to be times where it appears that we're drawing down from the highest place imaginable. Va'az who took from Shal Yisrael, and that's going to be the strength of Klal Yisrael. V'nekraim banim atam Hashem lekechem, and that's the point where we reveal that we are children of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the secret of Ha'avos Heimim HaMerkava, and the secret of revealing within our finite selves the expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's infinite light, where our ego casings and our ani is revealed to have been a perpetual kli of revealing the unfolding process of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's bittul, and the secret of ani va'ayin b'vasachas, and the secret of ani, which is nichla within the ayin, to perpetually be megala the ayin more and more. V'zehu ma shemo u'ma shem beno, and this is the secret of what is his name and what is the name of his child. U'be'emes bekablam kach, and in truth, when a person receives this properly, as magiyim el pnimius hasaga, then a person is going to come to the innermost awareness of the hasaga. And so, while I can't claim to understand fully what the Ramchal is hinting to in this deep, deep secret of amok amok mikol asher pirashti l'cha ad ata, what I understand this to be is that the secret of ma shemo u'ma shem beno ki teda, that a person should know his name and the name of his children. His name and the name of his children is to understand the unity between Atzmus and Kalim, to reveal that there's the essential light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and there's the vessels through which that essential light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is rarefied and revealed into existence. And yes, there's times where a person can get stuck on the externality of just Shem Beno, which is the shame of the Kalim, the expression, and forget about the Ma Shmo, which is the secret of Ma, which is the secret of the Ma HaChadash, which is the Bittul Metzias that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Megala, that or Lamata, and the secret of Adam. So when a person unifies those two things of Atzmus and Kalim, which is the secret of the kav and the chut, within the halal, so then it's a unity of mashmoy umashim benoy ki teda. Now it's lo itenu yodea adma. We don't have the graspability of the unification of ma with its external casings, the tree with the shekyo the ilana, the tree with the inner vitality of the light, that bittul b'mitzias, that bittul b'tachlis, that is perpetually unfolding to reveal the secret of tzimtzum she'ena kipshuto, and the end of the day revealing how all vessels and all concealment is only reflective of the deeper unity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light. And that's the secret of mashmo umashim beno, which is dependent upon the arrival of Mashiach, and the arrival of Mashiach is dependent upon this. Adma v'soida churban. And now the Ramchal is going to finish off with this nukuda, and with this will end the shir be'ezras Hashem. Umizman shenechrav habayis. But since the time of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, ne'emar b'machshechim hoishivani kamasei olam. You have restored me in darkness like the dead of the world, which Agav is how Chazal identify the root place of Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is all of these pratim. At this point in our history, we are no longer accessing the Atzmuses Baruch Havyachol that is Niskala in the Kalim. We're not accessing the Chut on a revealed way. Again, all of this is only a question of whether it's revealed, not whether it's present. But we're not accessing the Chut or the Kava Ein Sof, the Panimius Nistalik, and there's seemingly an absence of the inner interiority of things, and there seems to be only the externality of things that remain, which is the secret of the body without the illumination of the soul, or existence without the illumination of meaning. And at that point, Pasuk says, and the land was desolate and chaotic, and there was darkness that hovered upon the abyss. Beside Ha'inyan, and the secret of this is ki ein shlita l'klipos ba'aretz ha'pnimius, when there's a hisgalus of pnimius, when the Torah HaKadosh is revealed, when the Sheked, the Ilan is revealed, when the infinite light and the vitality of Atzmusis Baruch Kavyachol is misgala within the Kalim themselves, to be megala that there are no Kalim other than that which HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals himself through, and that we're tamid makusher to the kav and the chut of Orient Sof, and we could be mamshechet down into our innermost parts of ourselves through the secret of kivoy. In a time like that, there's no shaykhs to klipos, because klipos are only apparent when we're not tapping into the innermost point of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's unity. When we tap into the innermost point of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's unity, memela is part of the kopeleyav, and memela all of the klipos fall away. Rak bebechinas hakelim levad, the klipos, concealment, constriction, gvura, severity, negativity, all exist only by dint of the concealment valves and the separation of the vessels. V'haklipos mekoimam benukva d'tohim rabba, and in truth, the place where those klipos and that concealment emerges from is the feminine aspect of the great abyss, which is the lowest place in which the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu continues to reveal itself within concealment, so as to allow for Bechira. And they hold on there, and they continue to exist. Concealment continues to persist and exist as a result of the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has prepared things. V'zeki keneged naran, in accordance with my nefesh, ruach, and neshama, which are the three-pronged connectivity of my experience, which is the worlds of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya. My nefesh is my body that finds its placement in the kaved, which is the liver. My ruach is my heart, which finds presence within the emotive states of the self. And my neshama is my bina, which finds presence in my machshava. When there is a unity between the inner and the outer, so the inner casings, the lights of nefesh, ruach, and neshama are mali, the body, the heart, and the mind. Vizeki keneged naran, in accordance with these three levels of neshama, ruach, and nefesh, shel apnimius, of our inner experience of the neshama, which is ha'ara from the Orient Sof Kavyachol, kishu mistalik, when that's removed and that appears to be devoid, ne'emar v'ha'aretz haisa tohu v'vohu v'choshech, tohu v'vohu v'choshech, all corresponding, the three stages of nefesh, ruach, and neshama correspond to tohu, vohu, v'choshech, which are the secret of melech, which is the rosh tevos of moyach, lev, kaved, shebahem, shoirin, naran, meaning to say that the neshama rests in the moach, which is going to be correspondent to tohu, that the ruach rests in the lev, which is going to be correspondent to vohu, and the nefesh rests in the kaved, which is going to correspond to choshech, when that inner light of the vitality of the essence kaviyachol is hidden away from the kelim, and there's no longer a chibur between mahu umashem beno. V'zem magia el atahom shehu midor klipos, and at that point we find ourselves at the bottom, in that place where the klipa and concealment and heaviness abides. Ubeyosan hagas Yisrael kayach levad, and when it appears that this is the only way that Klal Yisrael is functioning in accordance with the kelim, in accordance with the externality of things, in accordance with the moyach lev and the kaved, the melech, the kelim without the naran, gavar hagolus harbe, exile appears to strengthen itself and grow stronger. Va'az ne'emar, and then we say velo itanu yodea ad ma, we don't have a grasp of the ma, which is the shuhu bechinas ma hazeh shuachut, we don't have a grasp of the infinite light of the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyachol that is emergent into the depths of reality at every moment, which is the secret of the chut. That's what we're saying. V'hinei az ne'amar, and at that point we say, V'hinei v'ruach Elokim mirachepes al pnei hamayim. Nevertheless, in spite of the fact that there's choshech and tohu v'vohu that hovers over this connection and it operates in a concealed way. Nevertheless, nevertheless, haruach, in truth, there's a ruach, achin ruach be'enosh v'nishma shakai tavinim. There's a hovering air of redemption, shu soid hakav, which is the secret of the kav, hazeshu mispashet alamayim ha'ela, and it expresses itself upon these frightening waters. It's still there, waiting to be revealed through the secret of kivoy. Shu soid eich merachepes bilvad. It simply hovers. It's mati v'loy mati, touching and not touching, present and not present. It appears that it's in my mind at one moment and gone in the next moment, which is the state of Gullus, which is the bipolarity of the experience with presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and concealment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The secret of mati v'loy mati, the secret of touching and not touching. And it's this ruach, the hisnoititzitz of the kav, that is perpetually revealed, in spite of the fact that it's not revealed in a revealed way, that these chachamim that we spoke about had the ability to grasp them. But because it was only touching and not touching at once, which means present by way of absence and absent by way of presence, magia v'lo magia, arriving and not arriving at once, they didn't have the ability to create the revolution like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai did, but in the time of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, oz hiskil is pashet zama, this light of ma, the yud vav dalid, the hey aleph, the vav vav aleph, and the hey aleph, which is the secret of Rabbi Shimon, which is the secret of ne'emar nasa adam ne'emar bavurecha, because it's the tikkun of the world, as we're going to see in the revelation of the inherent connection between above and below, in spite of the apparent concealment between that unification. Va'az nasa hazor, and that is the place where the Zohar HaKadosh is going to emerge from, the gilui of the Zohar HaKadosh, which is the secret of Vayomer Elokim Yihi Or, that there should be light, there should be a raz, there should be a secret, which is the gematria of Or, neged achoshech shalaguf, that the body, the darkness of the body in this place where lo itanu yodea adma, that in accordance with the first answer, we don't know when the redemption is going to arrive, and it's functioning in a state of admasai. Until when will exile continue? The second answer was that we don't have a hispashtus of the Torah, of Pnimius Torah, and therefore we don't have a way of understanding when the ending is going to arrive. As a result of not having an understanding of Pnimius Torah in any real way, with no real yediyah, Zakta Ramchal, the third answer, which is that we don't have anybody actually revealing or teaching the Torah in a way that's going to teach us the secret of Adam, the secret of the Kav, of Yamin, Small, and Emsa, and interconnectivity. And ultimately, all of that leads to the reality that we don't have accessibility to the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which exists and persists and is revealed through concealment in every aspect of existence. All of these reasons are the reasons for the exile of that inherent connection between the Yud and the Shindalid, between the Taryag Evarin and the Taryag mitzvos, between above and below. And for that reason, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai comes along to reveal a tikkun, comes along to reveal the beginning of the nature of the ma, of the secret of the tikkun that we're going to come to reveal, which is going to teach us how to move through the concealment, how to reveal the inherent connection within the concealment itself. Just in line with this Torah that we've been learning, so there was a tefillah that I saw from Rabbeinu Ramchal this morning, and it's tefillah matar, it's tefillah 249 in the 515 tefillos of Rabbeinu Ramchal, and I think it aligns very powerfully with this pasuk that we're darshaning, which is the condition that we find ourselves in exile, and the multiplicity of this pasuk, which is lo itenu yodea adma, that we don't know, and we have to scream out admasai, and we have to cry out for the chut of the Orient Sof to be mneskale back down here in our minds and our hearts and our neshama, and we have to daven for the proper orientation to learning Pnimius Torah and uncovering the secret depths of Pnimius Torah. All of this in describing the process of exile, we can look at this tefillah from Rabbeinu Ramchal and the secret of turning our Torah into tefillos. El echad yachad umiyuchad. Harei anu aniyim ve'evyonim ba'avur ha'sha'arim shel ha'or ha'elyon sheninalu aleinu. Rabbeinu Shloim, we are impoverished, we are destitute as a result of the closing of the gates that prevent your ascendant light from descending downwards. Lo itanu yodea adma, as we just learned. Ein anu yoidim darchei asaydes ha'elyonim lalechas bahem lefanecha ba'erech yasher karoi. Rabbeinu Shloim, we do not know the pathways of how to follow in your ascendant teachings in the right way. V'ne'amar banu ha'anius v'hadalus, and it is said upon us that we are impoverished and that we are destitute. Lo hinicha midatol Yisrael. There's nothing left for Klal Yisrael. There's no midatova, as the Kuzari says in Parak Aleph in Yud Beis. Riboin kol ha'olamim, Master of all of the worlds. Ma na'aseh. What are we supposed to do? Ve'ein anu yoidim ma la'asos. Lo itenu yodea adma. We don't know what to do. Va'ata mechalitz ani ba'anyo. But Pasuk in Eov says that you are the one who's going to come and redeem the impoverished one in their impoverishment. We are pouring out our hearts in front of you, Rabbeinu Shalom. You take what we're saying and you arrange them properly. We don't know the sirifim. We don't know how to put the osios back together. We'll give you the aleph base. We'll read the words of your tzaddikim, but you take them and you be masader them into the tikkunim that you need, because we don't know how to do that. For you have already said over in the holy words of your servant, Za'ani karava Hashem shomea, the impoverished person cries out, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu hears the inner cry of that impoverished person. Hear from within the mumbled cry of myself and the confusion of myself, hear exactly what you need to hear in order to fix me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And from within the pain that we encounter and the difficulty that we encounter, Nimsa Teshua will come to find salvation, as Pasuk says, and this rests at the heart of Rabbi Ramchal's project. It's specifically from the time of concealment within the state of Yaakov, from within the concealment itself we will be redeemed. We will find salvation, which is what we learned in last week's shir, which is the secret of being mahapich the dinim into the Yeshuos themselves. And the Pasuk also says, you brought us out from all of our pain, meaning it's through our pain that you brought us out. Unified in all matters of unity, singular in all matters of singularity, expressed in a singular essential nature, unlike any other thing in existence. We have trust in your yichud of the beginning, the middle, and the end, because in spite of the unity of the beginning and the end, we still remain in the separateness of the middle, but we have trust in the yichud. And we hope towards your truth to be revealed. Answer us with your hisgalus and the hisgalus of your yichud. El melech ne'eman loy nevoish ki batachnu bach. We're not going to be ashamed because we have trust in you. It's towards your salvation that I hope, Rabbanu Shalom. And Be'ezras Hashem, we will continue, as the Ramchal is now going to bring us into some of the most beautiful pieces of Torah ever written about the light of the Zohar HaKadosh. Be'ezras Hashem.